Hey guys, for this video I'm going to show you guys how we can create a delta histogram through coding into Sierra chart. So first thing we're going to do is go up here to analysis, and we are going to create a new custom studies file. So we're going to go here, new open custom studies file, and we're going to name this delta histogram and just hit enter, and that will create this file by default. So it's using the Sierra chart.h file, and we can remove these comments if we want. I'm just gonna leave them for now. And this right here, whatever we put in here is going to be the name of the folder that the study is going to be under. So I'm going to just put my indicator, my indicators, and then right here for this template function part, we can change this. I'm going to change it to delta histogram. I don't think it actually really matters, but because the actual name of the indicator is this sc.graph name. So inside of this encapsulates essentially the whole indicator or study, and this part right here is what we use for the settings menu, and also a few other things. As you can see, the name of the indicator. So we're going to change this part here to delta histogram. And then we're going to leave this auto loop here. What this does essentially is it makes it so we don't have to use for loops. Sierra chart will pretty much just loop for us. And then the next thing I'm going to do is sc.graph region. And if we set this to 0, it'll be on the main chart, but since we want it to be on its own little chart at the bottom, we're going to do graph region 1. And for these, I'm going to erase these. So you can see we have sc.subgraph, and then we have sc.input. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create references that'll make this look a lot more clean. So I'm going to go up here, and we're going to create the subgraph references and also the input references. So for the subgraph reference, I'm just going to put SC and then subgraph with a capital S, ref, and I'm going to call this delta and set this equal to sc.subgraph with capital S, 0. And if we want an input, we can also do sc input ref, and let's say threshold, and then sc.input 0. So it'll start at 0 and it'll increment up. So now to add this subgraph into the menu, what I'm going to do here is do delta.name. So we're going to give the subgraph a name. I'm just going to call it delta. And then we're also going to we're going to give it a draw style. So this is going to be how it plots on the chart. It can be plotted as points. It can be plotted as a line from each data point. So for this, we want to be draw style, capital draw style bar. So this is going to give us the like histogram-esque bar. And what we really want to do is anything that's negative is going to be a separate color, and so by default the bars are all going to be the same color, but to change that we're going to do delta.auto coloring and set that equal to auto and then pause neg. So this is going to change the color based on positive or negative. So the primary color is going to be the positive value. The negative color is going to be the secondary color. So we're going to do delta, and we're going to create the primary color, which is for the positive value. So primary color, I'm going to set this equal to RGB, and let's have this be blue. I'm just going to put 50, 50, and then 200. So this will be a blue. And then for the secondary color, I'm going to put RGB and just do flat out red, 255.00. So now we have the delta pretty much laid out for us. We can also create an input that we could use. We can do threshold, since that is what our input ref is, and make a name for this. So let's say this is the delta threshold. So for the delta threshold, we are going to make this an integer. So we're going to do dot set int, and we're going to give it a default value of 100. So whatever you put in there is going to be the default value. And then we can also set limits. So we can do threshold dot set int limit. And in here we can put the lower limit and then the higher limit. So I'm just going to put 1 to 10,000. And so now we have these. Now we can go on and we can get the delta. So in this lower half, this is where the processing will be done, and this is where CRChart will auto loop through what we're looping through. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the delta. So the delta is just going to be an integer value. So I'm going to do int, and I'm going to call this delta and set this equal to sc.askVolume. So if you know what delta is, it's the ask volume minus the bid volume. So ask volume at sc.index with a capital I. And what this is going to do is for every single iteration or every single bar, it's going to get that ask volume, the total ask volume at that bar. And we're going to subtract the sc.bid volume at that same index. Okay. So now that we have the delta, we're going to use the delta subgraph and plot those. So for the delta subgraph, so the capital D, since this is the subgraph name, we're going to do at the index that it's looping through, and we're going to set the value equal to the delta that we got. So now what it should do is it is going to plot this delta at every index. Maybe in the future video I'll show you how we can do some stuff with this threshold, but I just kind of did that to add a input that we can use. So now what we're going to do is I can click Control S and have this saved. I'm going to X out, and we can go here to Analysis, Build Custom Studies, and go to Build, Remote Build, and we can see it's already selected our last edited. And the next thing, let's see. So the auto coloring. So let's go check what we did wrong here. So I go to Analysis, New, and for auto coloring, it should be auto color, I believe. Okay, so here, this should be auto color. So that should fix it. Control S, and then we'll go back and build this again. Build, remote build. And we can see this should also have an S, so a few minor errors. Let's go back in and let's add this S here. Save it, go back out, and we will build this. And so now it should finally work. So there we can see the build succeeded. So now we can go in, go to studies, go to add custom study. And you can see we had the we had it under my indicators and delta histogram. So we can add that, and we can go into the settings, and you can see we have this threshold input that is default 100 like we have. And then the subgraph, we can see it's auto coloring. It has the blue for the positive color, red for the negative color, and it has a width of 1, which I think will actually be pretty thin. So you can see it's pretty thin here. We can go in on the study actually and change the line width to make that a little bit wider. So we can do delta.line width. Let's set that equal to 4. And then we'll rebuild that and see what that looks like now. But that's essentially how we can get this delta histogram. And then you can do a few cool things with testing whether it is above or below a certain threshold. So now I'm going to go back and go to studies, and we're going to add this back. Now it should be a little bit thicker by default. Obviously we can go in the settings and change the width here, but that just puts that in there by default. So now you can see we have a delta histogram.